Thanks very much, Stuart. Yeah, welcome everybody to our meeting tonight. And yeah, I guess firstly to endorse previous comments on the presentation tonight from Colin, which was really interesting for, I'm sure, a lot of people. And thanks to Peter for his MC activities tonight. He's always very entertaining in between speakers and introducing guest speakers and the like. So thank you to Peter. I just wanted to take a couple of minutes, not for any length of time, but to give you a few updates. Firstly, from Moorabbin, there's one thing to pass on to members is that we've had a notable increase in our body corporate fees that it's been passed through. So we're a little bit understanding of a little bit of the background to that increase, but we're trying to find out a little bit more information. Some people might be aware that there was some damage done in the way of a copper theft from the building later last year, and so there was a bit of a cost impact for the body corporate there, and I guess that's part of what we're seeing. Another development, I guess, is that we've been able to rectify the issue with the toilet fans. Part of the solution is ultimately going to be a little bit of a wiring change to make sure that we've got full control of the time clocks for those. So that's something that's in hand and being dealt with. I guess getting to the primary activity that's going on in the background that many of you'd be aware of with the migration of our email accounts across from Microsoft 365 to Google. That's obviously well underway. It was a lot of activity during the latter part of last year, perhaps a little bit of a lull over the Christmas New Year period, but we're back underway with that activity barreling ahead. And I guess we've got around 1,100 members or so moved across with accounts set up for them for their emails. And I guess 600 or so are actively using those. So that continues to be a primary focus of what's going on for a number of people, as you'd all be aware, I guess. There's probably not a lot more for me to say. I guess I just wanted to give people a bit of an update on those key things that we have going on. So I'll leave it at that, Stuart.
Thank you very much. I'll share the screen. And before starting, what prompted me to it? I have a gaming laptop. I don't need a gaming laptop. The only, with a very high frame rate, etc. The only two games I have are chess and bridge, the card game. Frame rate of 5 seconds is adequate. I don't need 150. So why? I've been attending the video production SIG for a while and been making a few videos, and we're talking about some free, superb software for making videos, which is Davinci Resolve. And the minimum specs are 16 gigabytes, and I have of RAM, solid state drive, good graphics card. The others are okay. So I try to run graphics, Davinci Resolve, and it sort of ran. And then when I was exporting, it hung and stopped. So I thought, okay, I'll put in more RAM. The cost for this has got 8 gig of RAM, and to put in an extra 8 was $65. I remember when it would have been vastly more than that. So I thought I'll run some benchmarks, nothing really scientific, but this is not going to be a boring PowerPoint presentation that you've all been reading. This will be probably a boring Excel presentation that you've been reading. Here's a photo of my 17-inch laptop from the top, and this is from the bottom. Now, as you can see, this looks like it's removable. It's held in by one screw under there. So I undid the one screw, and that's what you can see. This was empty. This is my drive C, a solid state drive, and a 1 terabyte rotating drive. So removing that, it took me about 10 seconds to put this in because I was going carefully, just slides in, clicks on both sides. I booted it up and lo and behold, I had 16 gigs. So what effect will it have? Now, I ran everything on the RAM drive. I've been using RAM drives since, I'm not sure it's DOS 2 point something, certainly in DOS 3 and for every operating since then. A RAM drive is a bit of software that makes your very fast memory look like a hard disk. And this is a speed. Look at the write speed. This is megabytes, not megabits. This means if you've got 2 RAM drives, by the way, I'm not recommending you do, I was doing for testing, and you've got a 1 gigabyte file you want to copy from one drive to another, not move, copy. This will be done in about 1/10 of 1 second. I've also set the environment variables so the temp folders are pointing to the drive Z. That's my drive Z. It is extremely fast. So, and I made sure I'm not running anything else, just the RAM drive. So they're all run. Now I had a 1 gigabyte RAM drive when I had 8 gig, and when I put in 16, I increased it to 8. This is the laptop, NVIDIA GeForce GX50 and an i7 since generation CPU, quite fast. Now, the first one is a Gamma Cruncher. I'll make this a little bit bigger. And I'm calculating pi to 500,000 decimal place. I normally do it more, but with 1 gig of a RAM drive, writing that file is 500 megabytes because each digit is there, plus the working. It just measures your CPU for single thread and multi-thread. Cinebench, single and multi-thread. I don't know why you would use single core, but people quote it. You'd be crazy because you can see how much faster multi-core is. Excel number crunching. I'll just show you a bit of the Excel. There are 5 million, actually 5,000,001 floating point calculations. I created a Word document with 1,041 pages and replaced 15,000 words from nearly over 90,000 words and formatting. Crystal disk, read and write speeds. DxO PhotoLab noise reduction on a 36 megabyte RAW file using its prime reduction. WinSat. Some of you might think back to XP and Windows 7, where you could click and it'll give you the performance figures for various subsets, and that has disappeared. Well, it actually hasn't. It's been around all the time. It's just well hidden. WinZip. I compressed 1,600 files, 800 megabytes, and the temp files are all going to drive Z, the insanely fast drive. So I'm just looking what the difference is in increasing memory. Notepad is very sluggish. To open a 0.226 megabyte file, and Davinci Resolve, which started it all, to render that. These are the speeds. All but these two are timed electronically. And I'll just briefly show you, this is 8 gig bit bit slower. It's amazing. The RAM drive a bit slower. Cinebench, timed electronically, or it actually gives you a thing. And this is just generating the same thing over and over again. It says video provides, so I just changed it, audio 8 gigabytes and changed the font, and we made 15,000 odd replacement. This was done with a stopwatch, and initially I was going to do it 3 and get the average, but my reflexes weren't all that good, so it ended up 6 until I got 3 readings within 1/5 of a second. WinZip, I could run it from a command line. WinZip, I've got the command line add-on, so using the time this, which times it to 1,000 of a second. This is getting pi to 500,000, and you can actually run. These are the various things which you could run in XP and Windows 7 for Windows to give you a graphics card mark. And this is the export from Davinci, gives you the speed. So let's go back to the benchmarks, and these are the ones. Now I've added doubled the RAM, and let's have a look at the results when you're doubling the RAM. We'll unhide, and these are the differences. For some inexplicable reason, calculating pi to 500,000 was marginally slower. Single thread, multi-thread, a hell of a lot faster. That had by far the biggest. Cinebench, single thread, amazingly was slightly slower. And I made sure I'm not running anything in the background. To me, this is a mystery. For the other things, very little. The crystal disk ran 11% higher. Noise reduction made very little difference, marginally better, but you can't see those. You need electronic timing. And just very briefly, when you go have a look at the same things, Cinebench is better. This is the this opening notepad, and it gives you the time 3 times, and I just average them, and all of these have improved noticeably. And this is the same replacement. This is the WinZip. The only sort of extra things was to show you that all cores were sitting flat out, 100%. I'll make that a bit bigger for you. So this is obviously the multi-core Cinebench, 100%. And I'd like to see the kernel times. The kernel times, if you haven't configured your task manager, these are the gray, slightly darker blue. That's the kernel times. This is how much Windows is doing it, and this is the application. And I had one application running, namely rendering. So the summary. For all practical purposes, it makes bugger all difference whether you've got 8 or 16 gigabytes. Going from 4 to 8 will give you more noticeable in many cases. Where this will come in, and I haven't pushed it, if you run with lots of things opened. You have mail opened, you have one browser with half a dozen different tabs, possibly second browser open. You've got Word open, you've got Excel open because you're doing lots of things. Maybe Photoshop open. Photoshop is fairly intensive memory and so on. And they're all open. As you keep opening more and more, you're going to run out of RAM, physical RAM, and you'll have to start paging. once it starts paging, it'll get very slow. You're wondering why the hell it's so slow, because you're paging. You've got too much open at the one time. And with 4 gig, that can happen because Windows will take close to 2 gig while you just fire it up to load everything else. So unless you have a specific need or something that will only run in 16 gig, save you $65. Any questions, folks?
Question, George.
Yes?
You're talking about Davinci Resolve.
Yes.
I've got a laptop here which has only got 8 gig of memory. It won't running in that. I'm just wondering whether it was worthwhile trying to upgrade that to 16 gig, because when I looked at the specs of Davinci Resolve, it said minimum 16 gig.
Yeah. On this one, oddly enough, it ran most things, but then it stopped when rendering. I can't give you the definitive answer, because if you've got 8 gig and there are 2 lots of 4 gig modules, you'll have to replace all your RAM with more, and it may be harder to put in. This is an Asus Republic of Gaming, remarkably easy to upgrade. I was amazed. I've seen some laptops who've got to take the keyboard out to get into the memory. So you might have a look at the manual, how difficult is it to get out, and also ask whoever you're buying it from, will this run on, and you give the make and model. Because the memory modules, a laptop, are a little bit more choosy than RAM in a desktop. You just put in the big module, click, 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 and all is done. So it may help, but you have to do a little work to make sure that the RAM will run on that laptop. And yours is an elderly laptop. This is only 2 years old.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions?
What's the best way of determining the kind of RAM you should choose, George? Do you know of a program that reports on current RAM?
Well, CPU-Z will tell you what you've got, how many slots you have. So certainly start with CPU-Z. It's tiny. It's about 1.5 megabytes, 0.001 of a gig. It's minuscule, and it gives you a lot of information, a hell of a lot. I would start there, and it'll tell you what RAM you have and how many spare slots you have. Because if you don't have any spare slots, it'll be fairly expensive. And if you say going to buy brand X RAM, go to that manufacturer's site and specify that you want 4 or 8 gig modules for the make and model. And many of the RAM manufacturers give you, if you want that, it will fit in these. And if your laptop isn't in the list, it's not going to work. There are quite a few things involved, not only the speed, but a few other things. So you'll have to look it up, do a bit of homework before spending your money.
Or the motherboard for a desktop.
Yes, the same applies. Desktop, you've got far more chance. You see what you've got now and put in the same specs. Again, CPU-Z will do it. It's tiny.
Fair enough.
It's CPU-Z. Excellent software, tiny, runs fast.
Yep.
George, how much RAM would you allow for your RAM drive?
That's a good question. With 16 gig, I allow 4 or 5. Many of the free RAM drive programs will let you only go up to 4, and any more you have to pay for it. If you put in too much, whatever you put in a RAM drive, it's not available to the operating system. So if you've got 8 gig laptop and you put in a 4 gig RAM drive, Windows will only have 4 gig to play with if the RAM drive is getting full. So there's a balance, and that'll be a longish conversation. Maybe we can chat that hardware on Friday. But what a RAM drive will do is save or extend substantially the life of your SSD. Because with SSD, I think most people know they're a finite life. You can write to the cell so much. So they have some few hidden ones, which when they wear out, the controller looks after it. But if you set your environment variable, temp, or TMP or TMP, to point to your RAM drive, and I call mine Z to get way up so it never changes. With 4 gig, you will never, ever run out of RAM drive in the normal use. I also put Firefox and Chrome temporary files into the RAM drive, especially Chrome. It generates temporary files like crazy. After several sessions of browsing, you can have 300, 400, 500 megabytes of crap on your hard drive. All of that goes into RAM. And with most RAM drives, where I consider this advantage, that when you switch your power off, it is gone, totally irretrievably, absolutely gone forever. With some, you can save the image. But I use a RAM drive for temporary stuff, do some testing, and I don't have to clean up after myself. So I recommend 4 gig for 16, substantially more if you've got 32, but it depends what you can use it for. Just to improve performance and extend the life of your SSD, 16 gig, 4, 8 gig, 1 or 2. I wouldn't go much more depending on how many things you run simultaneously on your laptop.
George?
Yes?
Paul Willard.
Yes, Paul?
Talk about looking for RAM for a laptop. Crucial.com. You can go to using the laptop and it will tell you what sort of RAM you've got in the machine and what's compatible with it. I've never heard anybody have a problem with that, and I think I've used it a few times. It works quite well.
Thank you very much, Paul. Excellent advice.
I've heard of that too. It's called Crucial Scan.
Okay, thank you.
Kirsten has a question.
Okay, Kirsten, go ahead.
I actually put my question in chat. But
Oh, sorry, there's a lot of chat. I didn't read it while I was presenting. Sorry, go ahead.
If I have a lot of Chrome tabs open, should I be sticking with 16 gig?
Probably not.
Okay.
Depending how much you have, open the task manager and then just keep an eye on the RAM. If you're starting to get above 90% used, you may consider putting in more RAM. But have task manager. You can open task manager by pressing Control Shift Escape, Alt Control and Delete, and then select from the menu, or just right click on the taskbar and select it. And you can then have a look at how much RAM you're using. If you like, I can quickly demonstrate that. Anybody interested?
Take long, George?
Can I have, say, 30 seconds?
Yes.
Okay, Alt Control and Delete. Oh, sorry, I've got to share my screen. Sorry, folks. Another 30 seconds. I'll close. Oh, it doesn't matter. Here we are. You go in, you have to say more options, and then you go to performance, and there's memory. You can see how it goes. I'll close. I'm trying to close Excel, and I set it to open. Don't save. Sorry. still trying to get out of here, and it should have dropped a bit. There, you can see over here, it's dropped. Excel doesn't use all that much, but as you can see, I'm now using 8 gig out of my 16 because there is Zoom. I've got something else open. Okay, over to you.
Okay, thank you very much, George. I'll now introduce Kirsten.
If I'm not loud enough, hopefully I'm loud enough. This is the 9th meeting I've been involved in helping to organise, and it's been an extraordinary opportunity and real privilege. I want to mention that Hugh's been putting the meetings up on our YouTube channel, and you can Google that as YouTube Melbourne Computer Club channel. And there's a lady in America called Rosie Sherry, and she built a big software community called the Ministry of Testing. Back a bit. Yep. And just about right. And she said she was a real introvert, and I'm an introvert, and computers were my answer to being able to create things as a software developer. And she said that running a community or being a community, involved with community is a hack. Doing the organising is a hack for introverts because people have to come to you. So please come to me and tell me things about what we should be doing. Now, there's 2 people that have done something wonderful for me. One was Rob, who found the people that did the housing, the digital home systems. And well, a lot of people have done wonderful things, but Rob in particular found the digital home systems and then did the Q&A for it. And then last month, Bert did wanted to talk about cancer, prostate cancer and modern technology. And we had a wonderful session and Bert did the Q&A. So I'm looking for more of that. And next month, really exciting, a particular person, Mr. John Hall, said, was kind of nagging me to get this CEO of this huge company now, Grant Petty of Black Magic Design. And I'd sort of been putting it off because I thought, oh, I'm reading about them in the Financial Review. They surely won't want to come or whatever. But thank you, John kept nagging me, and I so gave it a shot. And it turns out he would love to come and talk to us. And he's kind of driven, if you look at his website, he's driven by the creative things that people could do with computers and enabling people to do those creative things. And we've had a few references to Davinci Resolve tonight. Thank you, George, and also our guest. So Black Magic Design is the company that does Davinci Resolve. There's another thing I want to, so I'm putting a call out. If you have something or someone that you think you could be the Q&A person for, get in touch with me and we'll go do it. Then the other thing is a new idea is kind of picks. Like George had this fantastic thing that he did for ages for us, What's New? And he stood down from What's New and then he was back again tonight, which was just wonderful. But we can't rely on George all the time. And we've got these kind of breaks where if you're in Moorabbin, you want a bit of a break to actually chat to people, but obviously tonight was a bit of an experiment and it didn't quite work out with the chats. So what we really need is all of you to kind of think about doing a 5-minute pick segment. And by a pick, it's sort of like you see something like, well, maybe the way Zoom reactions work or some particular thing that you find interesting. And it doesn't even have to be 5 minutes. Maybe that's the cap. And you can give a little presentation on that. So we're going to do pick segments. Think about your pick. Finally, discourse. We have discourse. If you want to get on the monthly meeting organise page, you can contact Stephen Zualaga and get a login to discourse if you don't already have it. There's a monthly meeting section to discuss what we're doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Kirsten.
Yeah, I wasn't scheduled originally to do a second version of this because you've probably had enough of me from last month. But anyway, you've got me again, so it was a bit hard to fit in Harry, who's getting some surgery, and some of our other members from iHelp also were not available. So anyway, I got the short straw. But our group is a very active group. We're all pretty busy, and last month Harry put out a list of some of the jobs, the typical jobs that the iHelp support members with, and I just thought I'd probably mention a few of them because the committee and people, some of the people get copies of this, but not all our members. So I'll just pick out a few. I think you had a list of about 20, and I'm not going to go through them all for you. You'll be driven nuts. So they're usually fairly simple sort of things that we have to help people with. A lot of them are very elderly. We have some very favourites of ours who probably seek our help at least once a week, and we get to know them fairly well between us. Some of them have, well, quite a few have a lot of memory difficulties, and in a lot of cases you just have to point them into the right direction as to where something or other happens on their computer. Typically we get things like they're concerned about security on their computer, so they say, how can I improve security? I'm not sure. I've always believed that Microsoft had a fairly good malware inbuilt into Windows 10, and I've generally told people that, but I don't know. I'm not entirely sure of that. I don't know if anyone else would like to clarify that a bit more. So that's one of the things that I was wondering. A lot of them have problems accessing mail. They're all using different programs to get their mail, from using webmail through to Thunderbird's still around a lot. Unfortunately, I can't help them a lot with Thunderbird. I grope around usually using one of the Quick Assist, or we used to use TeamViewer. I'll mention a bit more about TeamViewer in a minute. But yeah, so you can sort of search around in it and try and find issues that they're having. Usually it's because they've clicked on some other option and it's showing in a different way, so they don't understand it. There's a lot of memory problems, as I mentioned, so people forget passwords. They even forget where they write the passwords. And I have one particular favourite, or very common customer, I suppose, and he keeps writing things down on bits of paper, and even after I gave him an exercise book and said, write it in the exercise book, he then can't find his exercise book, so you're constantly having a bit of a problem there. There's a lot of, as I said, there's a lot of have problems logging into their emails, and sometimes you get the same person who has the same problem over and over, but you try and do all sorts of things to try and see if you can help them with that. Just very quickly trying to go through it there, something that's of interest. I mentioned last time when I had the iHelp segment, I've got to still have this guy who's got my phone number, my personal phone number, and every issue he has, he's got to ring me. And even though I've redirected him to the iHelp line, he's got somehow or other, I think he's got my phone number in his phone, so that's really easy to call. So these are some of the sort of characters we end up with. It's good to be able to help some of these, because you know that they're struggling, so it's and they're all very, very appreciative. One of our members, Dave, is extremely popular. Quite a lot of people say, "Oh, can I speak to Dave?" Because he's very good with particularly some of the older users. And and we know we've given Dave the Volunteer of the Month. When was it, John? I think I remember you giving him the Volunteer of the Month. Was that 2019? I guess it must have been. Wouldn't have been too much last year. That was it. Okay. And someone was so impressed with the help that they got from him, they donated $500 towards the club. So that was rather amazing. And yeah, Dave is an extremely amazing character. He has quite a few health problems, and I think he really enjoys his time helping other people. We used to try and use TeamViewer to try and help people on their computers by logging in and controlling their computer and finding their issues. I think I may have mentioned it last time, and I don't know whether we can do anything about it as a club. TeamViewer decided that a lot of us, if you're using it several times over, especially if you use it several times within a month, they must have a record, and they'll say, "You're using it too much, you must be using it commercially, you have to pay for a commercial license." And I called them, I think I mentioned that, I don't know if any of you remember, and even for a special club discount price, they wanted $800 a year for us to be able to use TeamViewer. Now, I usually use Quick Assist, which is an inbuilt program in Windows 10, but we still do have quite a few members who are not using Windows 10, so we're sort of forced to try and use something else. So occasionally we can still use TeamViewer. I believe there are some other programs as well that could be used. Perhaps we'll put that out as a request. People can suggest some. What else would I have in some of my notes here? Yeah, a lot of the issues we've had with the transition from Microsoft to Google, we've also had a lot of people calling. Most of the time we have to hand that over, or we do hand it over to the team that are doing the transfer. But we do constantly, we'd probably get at least 5 to 10 calls a week just on that subject. So it'll be good when we finally get it all done. And about the only other thing that I thought I might mention is we currently have 8 volunteers. Now we man the 3CX phone system. This is a phone system that will direct anyone's calls to MelbPC for iHelp. We'll direct it to your phone, and whoever the volunteer is, he signs into that, and he'll then receive all the calls. So we have 8, as I said, 8 volunteers. Now we have the service available from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. 5 days a week. Leighton is our secretary, and he really cracks the whip. He won't let us take any days off. We're allowed to take Christmas Day off and Good Friday, but they're the only days we can take off. Public holidays, no, you got to be there for the members. Anyway, so having only 8 volunteers, it does limit us quite often with the amount of help that we can give. And if someone else can just give a couple of hours, even, you know, if they can give a morning or an afternoon, you don't have to be brilliant. I'm certainly not brilliant at computers, but just be able to help people. And if you can't do it yourself, there's quite a group of us. We can always circulate the problem to others to help with as well. And I think that's about it. Thank you very much.